All right. Well, welcome to this is March, right? March's meeting of the Safe, Sustainable, and Equitable Transportation Committee. I am Adam Prinzo, your co-host, and we are joined by our third co-chair. We are joined by our third co-chair today, so I will kick it over to Samuel for a second to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I wasn't able to attend the last meeting as I was traveling for work, but glad to be here. My name is Samuel Littauer. I'm the commissioner for 3C01, which covers the east side of the commercial district on Connecticut Avenue. I live on Connecticut Avenue myself and am a new commissioner on ANC3C. So glad to be working with y'all, and I'm a passionate advocate for safe, sustainable, and equitable transportation. So happy to chip in however I can. So thanks.
You should have also mentioned that you write the Capital Bike Share stuff up for Greater Wash too.
That is
I
true.
need to
Yes.
see
So
that stuff.
I've been outed. I do write a monthly column for a regional publication called Greater Washington on Capital Bike Share ridership data. So I find it particularly interesting. Second busiest system in the country, fastest growing system in the United States. But I'll leave it at that.
Is the first New York?
Yep. New
That's
York, then
scary.
DC.
All right. Well, with that, I believe everyone here was here last time, so we can move along. And the first thing on our agenda is a discussion of a letter to my favorite agency, DDOT, on flex posts along Connecticut Avenue at the zoo. And I'm going to put a draft of the letter in the chat, and I will turn it over to Commissioner Paget, who has a brief overview of this.
Oh, I wasn't planning on giving an overview.
Oh, well, I could just say Janelle wants to. So there's what are those things called? Flex
Flag
post
is
along Connecticut Avenue by the zoo now, and we just want to put more at the actual intersection, right?
in the crosswalk. So they put up a bunch of the yellow ones to get people to stop. Well, try to get people to stop making illegal U-turns in that area because it's incredibly dangerous. But now that those have solved for the problems leading up to the crosswalk for the most part. Now people are making the U-turns in the crosswalk when there are pedestrians who have the signal to walk in the crosswalk, and it's chaotic. So I reached out to DDOT and asked if this was possible, and they told me yes, and that construction will maybe start at the end of the year. I found that to be unacceptable timing wise because it's supposed to be part of the larger Safer Connecticut Avenue project. But rather than wait around for that to be approved and funded, like I think that they should just take immediate action and deploy these flex posts in that small strip of area that would be meaningful, like for a safety improvement in the near future.
I'll raise my actual hand instead of my virtual one. I agree. And, I thought the whole idea behind flex posts was that they're a flexible and not very costly part of the toolkit that allow them to put these up, see how they work. No doubt they'd have to replace some anyway, but it's an interim solution pending, something else. And I can get where a speed camera or something equivalent, would take some time and require, some specific funding. But I see no reason why they couldn't deploy the flex posts, which are really an extension of what they have now, much sooner than that.
Right. So that's what essentially this ask is.
Yeah,
Okay.
I completely agree and second that. I mean, we're talking about what I think two flex posts here or something like that. At two or three, I mean, it really should be able to take less than a year to get those in there. So, definitely a big support of this.
Well, it's probably a dozen or so because that's the big crosswalk, like the big long one. But I think there's like 30 that they put out there overnight. Like one Saturday night, I woke up on Sunday morning and I was like, thank you. It's my birthday this week and I really appreciate my new Flex posts.
Like candles.
I know. True.
Just did a quick Google. I mean, if we all want to chip in, a pack of 10 is only $330.
Well, that's the next step in this because apparently OANC has said to the ANCs that we could use our ANC funds to fund things like this if DDOT isn't willing to fund and do it themselves, but it can be done.
Yes, the DDOT has to install them.
Well, yeah, but
Okay. I was about to say, if we did this on our own, wouldn't that be replicating a government service? Or if we paid for this on our own?
but if they're neglecting to do it, they are not providing a government service, and therefore we are not duplicating anything.
That's true. Good caveat.
You got to know the rules, break the rules, or bend them, like Flex Post.
Like Flex Post. Yeah.
Okay. And then there is a second portion of this letter, basically just asking that at some point, that intersection be considered for a red light camera. I feel like the district could essentially print money at that intersection. But apparently they're stretched thin on their red light cameras right now, so.
Well, the red light cameras and the speeding cameras are both meant to be redeployed after a certain period of time, which I think is actually coming up in spring if there's some underperforming ones to locations where they could possibly perform better. The whole idea behind them, though, is like to change the behavior of dangerous drivers.
Okay. And the afterthought is we can get some money. Not we, but the district. Okay. Is there anything else on this? I believe this is on the consent agenda for our meeting Monday. So as long as there's no more comments on this, we can move on. Awesome. Our next agenda item, and I will put this in the chat as well, is a possible letter to DDOT on no turn on red signals throughout ANC3C. I think I put the right draft in there. So people have been going around and adding intersections to this list of letters that we can adding intersections to this list so we can draft a letter about said intersections. DDOT, I think Commissioner Paget said that they only had like 8 no turn on red signs that they
No,
printed.
they print their own signs.
Okay. So we don't want to ask for it writ large because it's easier, I personally think, to ask for some and then come back later and ask for more. So I guess we can talk about this list here, and if there's any intersections that you think need to be added or shuffled around, that would be great. I see Connecticut and Calvert. I was about to add that since I was almost taken out 2 days ago.
Thank you to whoever added the Connecticut and Devonshire Place intersection. I live right near there. I was thinking we could potentially clarify the basically it's a T intersection, and then on the other side of Connecticut there's a driveway entrance that uses the same traffic light. And I think the rules on what cars are supposed to do from that driveway aren't entirely clear. So that's the exit. I see a lot of folks making a right on red. Well, really, it is quite clear. They just don't follow it. But I think we should clarify that it's that driveway exit that maybe has the most need for one.
I also think heading south on Connecticut, where like people are making the right onto Devonshire, like it would be helpful to have one there because I almost get got there a lot.
I mean, at that point, we might as well just do the whole darn intersection. It's only 3 signs or 4.
Well, there's only 2 crosswalks painted,
That's,
so those would be the priority of where to put them.
yeah, that one's a bad one. I've been nearly hit there myself a number of times. And I want to put Connecticut and Macomb on there again. I know we have them. They're really big. They're new. And I always nearly get got there.
Yeah, that's another one.
Every time. And I'm like, can I ask for like 2 on each traffic arm? I don't know. Like, it's crazy. I actually had someone, like, I was halfway across Connecticut and so like it had been red for a while and they like rolled up and I was like looking at them like, are you gonna stop? And they just like looked at me, smiled, and rolled right through. And I was like, dude, what?
I see, there was another one that I wanted to comment on. It was a Connecticut and Calvert, sorry. I did not realize that you were allowed to make that right because I feel like when I first moved here, they wanted you to, as you were coming southbound on Connecticut, to take that 24th Street kind of loop around to turn right on Calvert. I did not realize that you were technically allowed to make right on red there, so I just will double check that, but I think you can. And then the only other one that I was gonna suggest, well, there's the whole controversy about the one that's on Woodley in Connecticut now, but that's for Woodley turning right onto Connecticut. I just think we need a little clarification on that because apparently it's only for certain hours of the day, but the hours are not posted, and it's supposed to only be in effect when it's illuminated. My only issue with that is apparently it's rush hour and it's usually light out during rush hour, so I don't really know how you're supposed to see a sign that's illuminated.
It's no left turns.
No left, sorry.
Yeah, no, that one's one of like the.
No, it's right because it's when you're on Woodley turning right onto Connecticut.
I can check that. I live right at that corner.
Yeah.
I know that they have the big light up sign, but the big light up sign, I believe, is Connecticut facing. It's not Woodley Road facing.
Oh, okay.
And it's a
I could be
use
wrong.
3 lane sign when there's not the parking going through. Yeah, that's all. But I can double check that after.
No, I definitely saw it facing Woodley, and I'm pretty sure it's a no left.
Maybe it is on the left.
But they have like their newer LED signs, and they're really bright during the day because I can see it when I'm on K Street, and the whole thing lights up at
Oh, okay.
for an hour, like, and I can see all the way down K Street these new no signs everywhere.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I will try to draft a letter unless somebody else wants to do it. No? Okay.
I could give it a shot, Adam,
Okay, sure.
I-
I mean,
if
I
you're
can,
willing to help me.
absolutely. I can I'll start a Google Doc just like with the administrative stuff, like this was voted on in a public meeting, and then you and I can kind of like get it together and then we'll just send it around. I think it is on the agenda for Monday, so if we could try to get a draft out by this weekend, that would be amazing. And then if there's anything else on this,
I just had one question.
yes.
The 34th and Woodley in Wisconsin and Cathedral. I assume there you mean Wisconsin and the Cathedral rather than Cathedral Avenue. But if whoever listed these, maybe just give a sense of the issue at Wisconsin and the Cathedral. If you're talking about the parking garage entrance, is that in the south side by St. Albans or where are you speaking of?
Okay. I will ask, I think that was Aiden, so I will ask him. He is not here today.
Okay.
But I will send him an email. Is there anything else on this?
With Justin 34th and Woodley, if he added that too, just, you know, sense of which directions he's referring to. I'll go over and look at it too, but just be
Okay. I will ask him because I think he did that one too. So he also sent us an email about, this is a different topic, an intersection where, and we can, you know, just like mention this quickly and then we can divulge more about it in another meeting. Just let me pull it up. It's an intersection where it is very obvious, from my opinion, that you can cross. However, there is no painted crosswalk. However, it's got like the lights and it's got the divots in the sidewalk for people to cross. I think there is a few crosswalks in our ANC that Massachusetts and Fulton, I think it is. But I can go back and pull the video that he sent us. So if anybody wants to like take a look at some of the intersections and see a possible letter to DDOT on properly painting crosswalks. Because I know there is that one at Connecticut and Cathedral where there, I think, is supposed to be a fourth one, but there isn't one painted. But people act like there is one anyway. And cars tend to not see them.
Oh, no, they can't put one there because of the driveway on the other side of the street.
Oh, okay, yes. So I don't know. I will forward this email and the video to everybody if they want to take a look at it and see if it's something worthwhile. If not, we can just put in a 311 and see if they'll do it that way.
These are all signalized intersections, right?
Yeah. So there's signalized, but there is no painted crosswalk,
Got it.
which seems defeatist. And if that's it, does anybody have anything else?
I was just gonna say we're, you know, together with Matt Fruman's office, we're still waiting for DDOT to respond on, you know, the various entreaties on 34th Street, the safety study, and some of the improvements. And has taken just a very, very long time.
Is that where they put up the flags?
Yes, that's part of it. I mean, that's you know, the couple of intersections are certainly a safety concern, but by no means, you know, the entire set of safety concerns in that area, you know, which the ANC had already pointed out on a couple of separate occasions. So I know we're all frustrated with DDOT's slowness in responding. I'm not even saying slowness in doing something, but even responding in a, you know, complete and thorough manner.
We sent them a resolution on this last term, correct?
We're good. We originally sent a letter in. Well, there were several resolutions. If you go back to when Swally first took the initiative, we put in a resolution on safety improvements in the vicinity of Eaton School, which fronts on 34th Street. And then later, the committee and then the ANC put in a letter to DDOT that, you know, was not too prescriptive, but certainly identified the safety issues with some suggestions, but urged DDOT to, you know, undertake a thorough look and hopefully also, you know, reach some low-hanging fruit and make some safety improvements while they were doing the broader study. But despite, you know, follow up on my part, and I know Swally when he was on the commission, and then first council member Fruman, we're still not getting traction with the DDOT director. You know, they say it's a matter of priorities, but you know, folks are getting frustrated.
Did they answer our last letter?
Um, the last letter was a tepid response. It referred to some, a couple of signs that have been installed or replaced, one or two of which were not even within our ANC area and were therefore not the subject of the letter.
Okay. I was just thinking if they didn't answer us, I mean, we could always send them another letter and say that they have 90 days to answer us and they're outside the 90 days.
Well,
But
they're
if
Yeah,
they,
that's a good suggestion. We can do a follow-up letter and again, send it to Matt Furman. I'm
I
hopeful.
mean, we could honestly just take Swale's resolution and just like
Yeah,
update it a little bit. Just be like, hello, per our last email.
well, just restate our support for the letter.
I mean, their answer is going to be that it's part of the TSI prioritization
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, if,
make the list. And that's what the director told the council member at the oversight hearing regarding this particular intersection.
right. And I'm not sure I hope in their analysis they factor in the fact, John Eaton School of all the Ward 3 elementary schools serves, percentage wise and, I think in numbers among elementary schools, the largest number of kids who come in from outside, the ANC, the ward. So, one has to conclude that, the safety situation, particularly near the school, but on 34th Street, I mean, it has repercussions for students and for families all around the district. I apologize about the background noise.
That's okay. Um, yeah, I mean, DDOT is just frustrating. Okay. Well, is there anything that anybody else wanted to talk about? I do want to mention that I had a conversation with Robert in Woodley Park, because I know somebody brought up curbside management in our last meeting, and he is gonna send me a draft of what he would like some parking spaces in Woodley Park to look like. I don't know if that's of any interest to anybody here, but I think he's looking for a pickup drop off quickly in front of forgot where he told me. I think it was Donsack. Um, but he also has reiterated, and I have reiterated with Kendall from the mayor's office about the illegally parked cars on 24th Street. So there should be an interesting development coming there shortly. But if anybody else is interested in talking about that, obviously we can bring that up at a later date.
Cool. I did have something that came into my inbox earlier today from a couple of neighbors who live down near Woodley Place and Cathedral. They are interested, the group that emailed me this morning, they had a close encounter with a car that was turning onto Woodley Place from Calvert. So if you know that area well, you're about to cross the Duke Ellington Bridge. It's a one-way street that goes deeper into Woodley Place towards Cathedral. They want to see if there's a chance that we can put in Calvert-facing hawk lights for pedestrians to push to alert people who are turning into that road that there are folks crossing that intersection there. And so I mentioned to them that I would raise that with y'all. So I'd like to hear first impressions, and as a new commissioner, first impressions on the process as well.
So I know that the cross hatching there at Woodley Place in Calvert was like a tactical installation, and that intersection is on the list in that tactical to permanent program they have, where eventually they're supposed to do some, big reworking of that with more concrete and everything. So I wonder if we could maybe have something that asks them to, when they do eventually do that more expensive project there, to work some crossing improvements into that.
Nice, Adam. That's great insight. Thanks.
I will speak from my own personal experience with hawk lights. With the Wardman sidewalk being closed, there was a push by some of the Oyster parents to have a hawk light installed at Calvert and 28th Street. However, DDOT basically told them no because there was a stoplight already at Calvert and 29th Street, and then Calvert and the Omni Hotel. Even though the one at the Omni Hotel, I believe, is a hawk light because you have to activate it in order for it to turn red. And DDOT was saying that it would not be a sufficient amount of time for a car to come to a complete stop between the Calvert and Omni Hotel and Calvert and 28th Street, which I think is, well, I'll leave my personal opinion to myself, but I think it was an excuse that they just didn't want to temporarily put a hawk light, even though it is an elementary school. And as Janelle and I reminisce about, basically trying to save children from cars.
It does seem they're much more willing to put two traffic lights right next to each other when it comes to managing a large number of cars, like right by the zoo, than when it comes to, you know, protecting pedestrians. But
I've also like I have mixed feel. I like the idea of hawk lights. At least the mid-block one in Connecticut in Cleveland Park. I have had endless trouble with motorists ignoring it, or, you know, either like ignoring it when you're trying to cross or like staying stopped the whole time, which I don't care. You know, if there's traffic, I'm not a motorist. I don't like cars. If you want to stay stopped at a flashing red light, that's fine by me. But I've had like a lot of people, like I'll be crossing with a group of people and unrelated members of the group will be like, oh my God, they're ignoring the light again because they just don't know what it is. So I like the concept, but I think a lot of motorists either are willfully ignorant or are genuinely confused because it is a newer type of traffic signal. And my one concern about putting one at this location would be a lot of like people are going to be focused on oncoming traffic rather than any sort of lighting apparatus that's kind of trying to protect the crosswalk. It would almost be better to like do a raised crosswalk there because then a motorist would like instinctively be slowing down, and the incline down from the Ellington Bridge is super steep anyway. So I would imagine from an ADA perspective, having a raised crosswalk there would probably lessen that grade.
Yeah.
Great insight, Harrison. Thanks.
That's a good idea. I mean, I can't, speak as much to the merits of the particular intersection, although from what you say, it sounds like a very reasonable request. I would say with respect to hawk lights generally, I support them, but it's a matter of not only education, but a good way to educate is to enforce. And, it's not been something that has been a priority. And I contrast that with a hawk light that I'm quite familiar with over on Crystal Drive in Crystal City near my office. And people are diligent about following that, observing that, but it's because there's enforcement by the Arlington County Police Department from time to time. And so one of the things I was going to speak with Adam about, but then with MPD, when we do the periodic updates from MPD at the Public Safety Committee meetings, which, of course we appreciate, but I would love to start hearing stats, not just on, crime and arrests and activity, which of course are all very important, but also on police stops for DWI or for aggressive driving or other safety issues, because I know for the police it's a matter of priorities, but I think if we start asking for the data, maybe it'll become more of a priority within the PSAs within our ANC.
And Harrison, I like that idea of a raised crosswalk there. I use that intersection quite a lot when I'm on my bike, because there's the striped bike crossing too. And often the problem that I encounter there is that cars back up from the intersection on Connecticut. And it makes it really hard to see who's coming the opposite direction when you're trying to cross. And I always feel like that's one of the most dangerous intersections that I encounter because of that problem. So you have to kind of like look around the cars that are backed up to see who's coming the opposite direction. And to me, a hawk light might not be the best solution in that case because those cars are coming from the intersection. They've just gotten the green. They've been waiting for a while. They're like, oh, I'm finally through. And they're not really paying much attention. They're not expecting there to be another light, but a raised crosswalk almost seems like more effective just because they would have to slow down and look. Yeah.
That's a good read. And I share that. Seriously, I'm less worried about cars coming in versus cars coming in after I've already pulled around backed up Connecticut Ave traffic because I can't see them on the right side. So I'm with you.
I also definitely agree, though I do know that DDOT is very hesitant about raised crosswalks, especially on like major bus routes like Calvert is there. I wonder, do you think that one of those sort of crosshatched no stopping zones would have a positive effect if one of the issues is cars getting stuck along that bike crosswalk?
I don't know. Like, I would like to think so, and I think per Commissioner Nash, enforcement is the key. Like, my hometown, San Francisco, like if you, well, at least this was true when I was a kid, if you stopped in a downtown intersection on a red aspect of a signal, like there was a cop giving you a pretty hefty fine within like seconds. Because the city just knew that they could print money. And so growing up, when I was learning to drive, my mom was like, you do not stop at an intersection. We can't afford it. Don't do it. I'm a teacher. Don't. But I think like the number of times I see people during rush hour parking, like stopped, halfway across Macomb went on Connecticut when when the light turns red, or, halfway through a crosswalk because they didn't stop at the limit line. And DDOT, I don't think, is enforcing this. And so drivers get careless. So I think a no stopping thing would kind of clear the air there, and certainly help people see what's around them. But I think DDOT, MPD, whoever is doing, writing the enforcement, just doesn't seem to want to put that effort in for whatever reason. But I do agree. I think hatched no crossing or no stopping, don't block the box, if enforced, I think would at least clear up sight lines, if nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, all of this is good insight and enough for me to look into. So thanks.
I'm heading over to WMATA Command and Control Center tomorrow for my VIP tour as a 1%er, and hopefully with Randy Clark as an audience of this group. Small exclusive group. So if anybody has anything they want me to put out there for WMATA, I will be happy to do so while I'm getting my tour of the Command and Control Center, hopefully some good swag, and not touching any buttons. It's going to be hard.
Do you touch
If there
buttons?
is a full train meltdown tomorrow, do not blame Janelle.
Also, Janelle, I mean, I've got a job application out with them. If you just want to say a few good words, I don't know, I'd appreciate it.
And I collect lapel pins, and I don't want just one of the ones you can buy on the store. I want the larger square staff ones. I've talked to WMATA staff.
Might be a little hard.
Yeah, and apparently several of the folks that I talked to, they don't have one.
Although apparently you can buy member of Congress pins on eBay from members that have gone broke. So I'm not suggesting anything, but take with that what you will.
That sounds great. So anyway, that's all I got. I don't mean to drag this on.
I might be outing myself as too much of a nerd about this stuff here, but their merch is way too expensive. If there's one message I could pass on to WMATA, I've already got the shirt, but I really want one of those. You can get the full pylons, as like a poster to put up. Oh, what I wouldn't give if they went like $100 or whatever.
Yeah, got one of those. For me, I think that one, at least when it first came out, I got it on the special release. It was like 60, but I was like, ooh, still, that's pretty steep.
Well, what
The
station
thing
did
that
you
kills
buy?
me is I really want the live train tracker, and it's like $200, and I'm like, Randy, bro. So anyway,
Hey, if
Need
Congress
the
isn't
money.
gonna, we've got to fund the system somehow, right? So
that's right.
Samuel, what station did you buy?
Woodley Park, of course.
I was stuck on, do I buy Woodley Park or do I buy Gallery Place? Since it,
Yeah.
apparently, according to Metro, is my second home. All right. Well, if there is nothing else, I will circulate a draft of the crosswalk letter once it's hopefully finalized. And if not, I will see you all at our next meeting.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
you.